Okay, so to light dark or not to light dark, that's the question I'm going to be asking you today. Hi everyone, my name is Nia. As Dave said, I'm a master's student at the University of Greenwich studying web design. And this is my first time at State of the Browser, so thank you for having me. Today I'm going to talk to you about light and dark mode and how we can enable it using the light-dark CSS function. Before I start, I just want to make a quick disclaimer that there will be some small flashes and changes between light and dark colors, so I apologize in advance if that triggers someone. So what is light-dark mode? Light-dark mode means that we have two interface color schemes that we offer for our websites. Users can set a preference on their device for either light or dark mode, or maybe even both with specific hours for when to switch between them. What then happens is when a user visits our website, the browser checks if we have enabled both on our websites, looks at the user's operating system settings for the preferred color scheme, and then displays it according to that. If the user has not set a preferred color scheme, by default, the browser would display the website in light mode. But why is it actually important to have both modes enabled on our websites? Enabling both modes used to be considered a nice to have, but now it's slowly becoming the norm for good user experience. Offering both modes can have great impact on users' decision making. We might want to encourage subscriptions or purchases with our websites. And in some cases, by disrupting the user's experience, we might potentially discourage them from taking that step and purchasing that product or signing up to our newsletter. What I want us to focus on next are some visual accessibility needs that we may not think of that often unless we have one or know someone who does. And I'm talking about conditions like astigmatism, dyslexia, low vision, cataracts, migraines, and photophobia. Enabling light and dark mode for people with such conditions can be crucial to their experience on the web. For example, people with astigmatism, dyslexia, or low vision might prefer a brighter color theme because it's easier for them to focus when there is more light reaching their eyes. And for them, light mode makes the content easier to read, especially if it's a longer piece of text. On the other hand, people with migraines or photophobia, which is sensitivity to light, might prefer content that's presented in darker colors. For them, light mode has the opposite effect. When there is too much light, their eyes struggle to create a clear and focused image, so they might prefer dark mode, where lower levels of light reach their eyes and make it easier for them to focus. Sorry. Okay. If we think about a user's overall journey on the web, where some websites support both modes and some support the one that's not their choice, and they're going from one website to the next, all of that switching between modes can be pretty much a guarantee to cause them eye strain at the end, even if they don't have a condition. Okay, so here I used a browser extension called Stark Accessibility Checker to simulate a few examples of how some of those people may be experiencing the web. And I'm using the Ally Project website just as an example here. This first example is of how someone with cataracts or blurred vision would likely see the website in either light or dark mode. This is how someone with astigmatism or ghosting would likely see it. And this is how people with tunnel vision would likely see it. You should also bear in mind that what I'm showing you will not be 100% the same for everyone. For some people, their condition might be more severe, and for others, it may be less. But this just still gives us a good understanding of how people can experience the web. We should also consider that there could be many other reasons why someone would prefer one or the other. Situational and environmental conditions can also influence a user's preference. Maybe it's a bright and shiny day, and this is a simulation of exactly that, bright light directly on the screen. Maybe a person is sitting in their office trying to finish their project on time and meet the deadline, but they can barely see their screen because of that light. We wouldn't want them to miss their deadline. Well, if the website has both modes available, it's easy. The person can just switch between either and then continue with their work. But what if that wasn't possible? They'll likely get pretty annoyed because they can't do their job. Another example can be that someone recently had eye surgery and they used to prefer dark mode, but now during their recovery, light mode just works better for them. We can't really predict when and which mode our users would prefer or need to use. So it's important that when possible, we provide them with the choice and don't make it on their behalf. Now, let's look into sustainability. Before joining the industry, I had heard a rumor that dark mode can save energy, but I didn't really believe it since I didn't know exactly how it saves the energy. So I did my research and I can confirm that the rumors are actually true. And they're true because of the impact that colors have on energy consumption, which is biggest in devices with OLED screens. And those include AMOLED and POLED displays, which a lot of current smartphones, smartwatches, laptops, tablets have. In those screens, the power is individually sourced to each pixel, and the darker the color that they're displaying, the less energy they consume. And when they're displaying a pure black color, the pixels turn off completely and don't use any energy at all. Now, these are some statistics from a research done by Purdue University on how much energy dark mode can actually save. They're not set percentages for each and every device, since there are more factors to consider, like age of the device. But it shows us that there is a benefit to using darker colors on our websites. And when we consider to how many people and their devices this applies, even the small percentages make a big difference. And since displaying dark colors on OLED screens means that the energy that's being used is much lower than when displaying bright colors, it makes dark mode more energy efficient, meaning that by enabling it on our websites, we can reduce the power usage on devices by up to 47% and save and extend battery life for portable devices like smartphones and laptops. So what are the benefits of enabling both modes? Regardless of whether we prefer our designs to be light or dark themed, we still need to consider our users and their needs. There is no right or wrong when it comes to choosing light or dark mode. People have different needs that we may not even be aware of, which is why it's best to offer both. It will give users control over how they want to experience our websites, which will also enhance their overall experience and satisfaction. Both modes have been also known to help users focus and improve a website's readability depending on the needs. For someone with dyslexia, readability might be increased in light mode, and for someone with migraines, in dark mode. Because of the use of dark colors, dark mode specifically can also help with making screen flickering less noticeable. And lastly, designing a website for both modes allows a brand to be more adaptive. It provides various color combinations that remain aligned and associated with the brand. This approach maintains brand consistency and recognition across all user devices, regardless of the mode they choose. And it can also assist with physical products that a brand may decide to produce in the future by providing different color combinations that can be used on different products. So how do we light dark? Up until now, in order to enable light-dark mode, we would have to use the prefers color scheme media query and some JavaScript probably. And our code would look something like this or this, where we would have to repeat ourselves and declare the color values twice for each mode. But what if we could make it look like this, a bit simpler? All that code that you just saw can be replaced by just this. So let's see how easy it is to actually start doing it. We now have the light-dark CSS function, which we can use instead of media queries to make our job a bit easier and our code a bit simpler. We can apply the light-dark function anywhere in CSS that we would normally declare a color value. But instead of one, light-dark can take two color values. Inside the brackets, we would declare the first color that will be put for light mode and the second one for dark mode. And depending on the user's preferred mode, the browser will render the document in one of the two colors. So now I'm going to show you a few demos of how you actually put this to work. So to enable light-dark mode, I first declare the color scheme property with the light and dark values to indicate in which color schemes I want the document to be rendered in. I test it quickly with the DevTools to make sure that it works. Then I go ahead and apply the light-dark function to the elements and properties I want to change depending on the mode, which in this case are the body text and background. Then I just save it and test it with the DevTools just quickly, make sure that it works. And I move on and declare the single color values that I want to remain the same regardless of the mode my website is in, which in this case are the navigation menu and the button. And then I check it one more time with the DevTools. And that's it. Okay, so here again, in this example, I start by declaring the color scheme property, and I'm quickly switching to light mode with the DevTools to check that it works. The browser displays the website in dark mode, because that's what I have as default on my laptop. In the root, I have also declared my color variables and applied the light-dark function with the colors I want to switch between. And then I just go ahead and declare the different variables to the elements I want. And in this case, I want the whole page to change depending on the mode. At the end, I just save it and test it with the DevTools again. And everything works. So for this last example, I took the code from the previous one and just added a theme switcher for light and dark mode, where I'm using HTML and CSS only and no JavaScript to make that work. As you can see. And how I did this was that I added some value attributes to the light and dark options, and then in CSS I just target them with the has pseudo class and their value attribute, and then just declare the color scheme property again with a single value for either light or dark for the whole root of the document. And that's all I needed, basically. Okay, some considerations. We need to be aware that since the function is quite new, it's currently supported in more recent browser versions and has a coverage of almost 87%, which means that it may not work on some of the older browser versions. So we need to keep that in mind. But light dark is still a good and simple starting point towards making our websites visually accessible. The limitations we currently have are that the color scheme property supports only light and dark themes only at the moment, and that the light and dark function accepts only 2 color values, one for light mode and one for dark mode. But if we needed some small changes in our design, because let's say the font looks heavier in dark mode than in light mode? Well, the intention behind light-dark was exactly that, to act as an intermediate step towards a more powerful function. And the good news is that in the future, there are more plans to add more values to the color scheme property, along with the option to create custom ones, which we might decide to use to create custom themes for low and high contrast, along with the light and dark themes. And there is a function that has been proposed in the CSS working group issue, currently named schemed value. The idea behind it is that we would use it similar to light-dark, but we would be able to declare more than just 2 color values that we want to change, like different background images for each mode, which will definitely make designing themes for our websites much more pleasant and less complex. To summarize, there is no right or wrong when it comes to light and dark mode. Different people have different needs that we need to be considerate of. And the best way to do this is just by enabling both modes. By doing so, we accommodate users' needs, and we offer 2 different ways for them to experience our websites. And instead of media queries, we can now use the light-dark CSS function to save us some time and simplify our code. So my question is, would you like dark? Before I finish, I just want to say a thank you to everyone on this slide for helping me develop the talk in one way or another, and to Dave for giving me the opportunity and inviting me to speak. Thank you for listening.